I was standing there one day holding a bag, and I had my my pant belts pinned with baby pins to just this normal satchel, and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Hey, Pencil Kings, Mitch here. Today we've got Darren Yao on the line. Oh yeah, this is gonna be awesome.
What would really be a lesson that everybody should learn is that things come out of nothing. Things evolve out of nothing. You know, the tiniest seed in the right situation turns into the most beautiful forest.
Hey Darren, how are you doing today?
Hey Mitch, how are you going? Thanks for having me on.
We had reached out to Darren a little while ago to do some lessons, and Darren said, well, I'm kind of busy right now. I've got this personal project that I'm working on, which we're going to get into in a little bit. Before we get into Darren's very, very cool project that he's working on, how did you get started as an artist? Take us through those first steps. Like, were you a kid? You knew you wanted to be an artist. How did you begin?
Well, when I was a child, apparently I started drawing when I was quite young. I'm a concept artist for the people that don't know me. So I basically work in video games, creating concepts. And apparently my mum said that the first concept that I ever did was actually a triangular car with a wheel on its roof. So if it flipped upside down, it could actually keep driving. I thought that was actually pretty funny. I wish I kind of kept that. But that's kind of where I first started. I've always been quite a creative person all throughout my school years, and that I was, I was always drawing and doodling and that sort of thing, but I never really took it seriously. I come from quite a conservative Asian family, and we've never really had any artists in the family, not even graphic designers or anything like that. So my parents were like, we don't know if you can make, a living doing that. So I went to university and studied computer science and business. It was only after I graduated that I come across concept art, and I found out that people actually did this for a living, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. So I started, trying to teach myself artwork through books and DVDs, and about 6 months after doing that, I landed my first job as a concept artist for a fledgling game company, and yeah, I've been doing it for about 10 years ever since. It's been a crazy ride. It's been so enjoyable.
For me, it was very similar. I'd be, up late at night, working in 3D Studio Max, and my dad would come home and be like, why, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time with this thing? Why don't you, if you like computers, why don't you become a computer programmer? Yeah, and I think it's just people our age as parents, we could understand our kids wanting to be in film or games, and it's a viable career. But for my dad's age, that probably didn't make a lot of sense that I was going to get a video game job. I mean, there was not even any video game companies in our town. So you finished your computer science or how?
Yeah, pretty much. I ended up with 2 degrees. One was sort of like business and management, and one was computer science. And I didn't really want to do anything with computers all that much. I mean, it was kind of crazy because I'm a digital artist now, but I didn't want to program. I knew that much. So when I finished, I kind of flitted around to different jobs. I actually ended up working in a health food store, and they needed basically a storage person. So I was that person. I'd go and pack orders and that. At the same time, they also had this newsletter that they had to release every month, and I started using Photoshop there. I actually learned a lot about Photoshop doing these, these pretty cheesy ads, and that I got better and better at drawing with digital tools as well. And it's funny because I actually met the first person that I worked for in that field in that store. So my regimen every day was basically to work from 9 to 5 in that store. Then I'd take any money that I earned from that job. It was a full-time job. So I'd go out and buy art books, and I'd be broke again. And then I'd be spending all my time every night after I got home from either the gym or work, and I'd work until maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'd do that basically every day. I didn't have a social life or anything because I thought, this is kind of cool. I'd like to give this a real go. And I thought, I really need to put in the time and effort to learn this stuff because it looks like it's a very competitive field, and it is a very competitive field.
I've heard this story a few times now where people just, they have this calling, and then they say, I'm going to be an artist. And then, 6 months, a year later of in very intense study while having other jobs, or maybe, you quit your job, you come out of it, the other side of this gauntlet and you're there. Here's a question for you. Why do you think people online, because I see people that have been working and like making this slow progress, is there anything special about you that you're able to focus so intently from like 5 or 6 hours a night and make it happen for yourself?
Yeah, I know what you mean. There are some people who don't seem to improve as quickly. I think I've got quite an analytical mind. So when I was in computer science school, we had to use logic quite a bit to figure out how to obviously do programs. And I think when I was learning how to do artwork, I was always asking myself, why isn't my art as good as some of the people's online? And I wouldn't get too down about it. I'd be more asking myself in order to kind of close the gaps, if that kind of makes any sense. It's like, well, my line work isn't as crisp as this guy's. My use of color isn't quite as good as this. And when I knew that all these little bits and pieces were not quite up to scratch, I'd go out and look for a book specifically on that subject. So in order to tackle color, I remember just going out and looking online and finding numerous books about the subject, getting all those and trying to churn through them. If that didn't work, or if I wanted to increase my knowledge even more, I'd go to another source, another DVD or something like that, and just kind of devour that as well. I just really enjoyed learning that stuff more than I enjoyed partying, if that kind of makes any sense. I'm also quite introverted. I mean, I can talk forever, but I gain energy from being by myself. So being by myself in a room, reading a book, that's kind of like my natural habitat.
Gotcha.
So I'm not sure if you're the same, but that's how I am, I think.
I gain energy, just like you say, by being doing things on my own. I didn't realize that for a long time. That I always felt weird, why am I spending so much time by myself? Why do I love learning so much? Am I weird? It's like, no.
My dad would often say, you're very quiet and you should go out and talk more and be more social and that sort of thing. And I think that helped me to get out there and be more comfortable and social, but it was still important for me to understand that my natural inclination and where I get energy from is being by myself and not trying to deny that part of myself.
Is there what was the story behind that first job?
That with Photoshop, I'd actually been using it for a little while, but not in any professional capacity. When I was actually at the health food store, I heard a customer come in one day, and this is after about 6 months of practicing pretty intensely. The customer came in and we got chatting, and he seemed like a pretty cool dude. He was starting a small video games company. Where I'm from, it's Adelaide in Australia. There was no real games industry there, no film, not that much film industry at the time as well. So talking to this guy, and he was like, I'm going to start this small games company. I was like, wow, this is great. Maybe I'll have a chance to kind of work with this guy just to get a bit of experience. And it's funny because before that, I was actually not really working. I was just sitting in the back kind of looking through a book called Concept Design from Scott Robertson's Design Studio Press. And I was just looking through it because I love looking through those books. I ran to the back, I grabbed this book, and I brought it out the front. I said, look, this is all the sort of stuff that I do. And it wasn't, the quality of my work was nowhere near. I was like, look, I can do all this sort of stuff. And he was like, wow, really, that's really cool. We sort of need someone like that. So I went home that night and did a digital painting. Like, looking back on it, it was horrible. But this guy thought it was cool enough, and that's kind of where I got started. It ended up being a couple of years working with these people, and I learned, just so much on the job. It was crazy though. When I actually got into working with these guys, they were only paying about $300, and I was working almost full time for them. So if you do the maths, it's like it was terrible money, but it was the best. In my opinion, it was the best education I could have asked for.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to start somewhere. And when you have a chance and somebody's like, look, I don't have a lot of money, but what we're doing is real, it's a real project, or there's mods and things that are out there where the team is really professional. They have zero money. It's like, jump on those opportunities if you want to break into this industry, because that's how you get your foot in the doors, because then your portfolio is not just these pictures that you made in school. It's like actual things that you can play or things that you can walk through and experience. It's just on such a different level.
I completely agree. I mean, there's some people that I started with there, and they didn't last doing that, and they went on, and it was tough for them to kind of keep going with that. I mean, if you look at the situation logically, I mean, I wasn't getting paid a huge amount at the storage place, but it was still, much more than what I think I dropped my salary by half, basically. But I wanted it enough to say, I'm going to take this risk. I'm young enough that I can take this risk. If I fail, I'm not going to fall that far. So I'm going to take this risk and see where it takes me, because I don't foresee any other opportunities coming along like this for a long time. I've got I've got no formal art education. I don't have any pieces of paper. I've got to take the experience if it's coming to me.
That's awesome, because now you're doing something that I think is very amazing and unique. I don't think there's too many artists that are going down the path that you are right now. So what has been the project that you've been working on for the last few months or years, and tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So the project that I've been working on is called the Nomad. And what it is, it's a very specialized arts satchel. Bags have been pretty much the same since they were first created. They're like sacks, and you can kind of put stuff in them. There's multiple pockets. But with the Nomad, it's specifically designed for sketching artists who want to go out there and be creative in the real world while being comfortable doing it. I sketch quite a lot in the real world because I find a lot of inspiration there. I go to zoos and art galleries and museums all the time, and I found personally that it's a really uncomfortable experience. You've got to take out your pencils, you've got to take out your sketchbook. If you don't have a table, you've got to sit on the floor, or you have to hold your sketchbook, and it's generally just kind of uncomfortable. It sounds like a great idea, but a lot of people don't do it because it is uncomfortable. So the Nomad has a number of innovations, I suppose, that are there to help the person sketch a lot easier. So if you don't have a table, there's a special strap system, or you can attach to a tripod so that it becomes a sketching easel or a drawing board. And you can sit with it. It's weatherproof, so if you decide to go plein air sketching, if it starts raining, you just zip it up and your work's not going to get ruined. And I've also tried to make it a nice looking product, so it doesn't kind of scream at you saying, this is an art product. It looks stylish enough to kind of take with you anywhere, because I want people to be able to take this bag with them all over the place, while also carrying their mobile phones, their wallets, all that type of thing. Because one of the things I've found, and I'm not sure if you found this as well, Mitch, but say between waiting for a pizza or waiting for a friend or being on the bus or being on the train, there's pockets of time all over the place, and you're never quite sure, or at least I'm never quite sure, when inspiration is going to hit. You could go past a building and you think, oh, wow, that's really cool. And an idea forms in your head and you think, oh, I don't have a place to kind of record this right now, but I'll remember it when I get home. But of course, life always gets in the way of that. And then by the time you get home, you've forgotten your idea. So a big thing with the Nomad is that you can take it anywhere with you. You can always record your ideas, because you can unzip the bag and start sketching within literally 5 seconds. And the bigger picture is that we can be creative more often, and that all these great ideas that I'm sure millions of artists around the world have, that's kind of the big idea behind it. Less creative ideas are lost to the ether.
Awesome. So I saw the bag at first, and I just saw some photos, and I kind of got the idea, but it wasn't until I saw people actually using it where I had this really big aha moment.
Yeah.
And for me, the thing where I was just like, oh my God, that's amazing. I want this. On the Nomad, you can change the position where it attaches. You can then balance it on your sort of like waist and hip bone.
Yep.
And it becomes this like nice flat drawing surface that is pretty much just right at the perfect height.
Yeah,
so you can stand there.
Yeah.
I remember it being in art school, and we would have these giant pieces of lumber that we would, you had to be sort of a giant to be able to comfortably carry it, which I'm not.
Yeah.
And this solves all those problems, as well as just seeing people being able to unzip and go, like you said, in 5 seconds. And then now, for myself, starting to work more and more digitally, the fact that it can accommodate pretty much anything. So if you want to throw your Surface Pro in there, cool. You want to throw your iPad in there and use that to sketch, cool. You just want to have a sketchbook in there, cool. It's really awesome. And if you're listening to this, you've not seen the Nomad, and you do sketch when you're outside of the house, definitely go check this out, because it could literally change the way that you approach sketching and make it a much more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, definitely. You should have seen it when I first started trying to figure out the system of doing that that supported sketching. I was actually at home, and my wife, she suffers through a lot of my crazy artisms. I was standing there one day holding a bag, and I had my my hand belts pinned with baby pins to just this normal satchel, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was figuring out how I was gonna create that system, and eventually it was it became quite a simple system, because I thought, well, people don't want to have to fumble with it, and really it's just unclick and then click at the top, and I thought, well, how come other people haven't thought about this? It's just a simple system, so.
So you've never, no one's ever done that before? It's totally something brand new, this?
Yeah, well, to my knowledge, I've seen some similar products, but not in the way that the Nomad does it. Both in terms of the way of the flexibility of the strap boards, and also the clip mechanism. I had to have left-handed users and right-handed users be able to use it at the same time. So I've designed the bag symmetrically. Yeah, that's how the design was kind of driven. It was, had to be able to match up to everyone.
Was the idea that, I want to create a product for artists, or was it just I'm sketching a lot out of the house and this system isn't good? Where did it come from?
Yeah, it's definitely the second one. I was sketching out a lot. I started a sketch group, and I sketched with them a lot, and I said, I'm sure there's a product out there that's done this, so I'm going to go look for it. And honestly, with the amount of work that I've had to go through, I probably would have just bought that product if it existed, but it didn't. I spent literally a couple of months looking for it, and just nothing existed. So I thought, I'm going to use my concept skills and try to create something, and possibly help other people out in the meantime as well. So that's where it kind of all started more than probably 12 months ago. It was just a rough sketch on a little piece of paper. Honestly, I didn't know if I'd ever get to this stage. More than once, I almost quit just because it was a difficult process. But I'm glad that I stuck it through. So.
Can you tell us about some of those times when you almost wanted to quit, and sort of what did you do to pick yourself back up and continue on the path?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is that I've never manufactured anything physically. I used quite a lot of my concept art skills to figure out what I wanted it to look like and what its function was, but I've never taken it to the next step like an industrial designer. I have never taken it to the step of, now I'm going to get this fabricated in real life. So I had to go look for manufacturers over in China, because that's the best place to kind of do it these days. I basically went to a site called Alibaba and tried to find someone who was making good quality products and get their expertise to create a prototype. We ended up going through about 3 manufacturers, and we settled on a 4th one. And as you'd imagine, every time you change a manufacturer, there's big hiccups. There's new ways of working. There's new ways of communicating with these people. Everyone speaks a different level of, their command of English is different. Another thing that you're not sure about is whether they actually manufacture their own products or whether they're just middle people. That was a massive challenge, finding a manufacturer. The first one came back with, a prototype of my design, and it was just so far from what I had envisioned. And I thought, my God, this is going to be a monumental problem, to get it to fit my vision. I decided to continue, but I moved on to someone else because these people were just poor at communication. So I moved on to another manufacturer, but there was still a lot of problems.
Now, I'm just going to stop you there. I'm really curious. I think because as artists, we've all had ideas. We've all sketched things out. Is it really expensive to get something prototyped? Is this something that's within the reach of normal people?
I've always tried to do things on a professional level and reduce the risk. You could just go to Alibaba and try to find someone and get them to do something, and you could probably do it for a few $100, right? But doing it that way is a big crapshoot in the dark. After that initial manufacturer, I got a proper manufacturing and outsourcing consultant in order to help me vet these people. They actually have people on the ground there, and they can get people to go audit the factory and figure out whether they're the real deal or whether they're, not actually professional. So that starts to run into a lot of money. I can say that at the end of before I got this product to Kickstarter, where I'm trying to raise the funds for the manufacturing. In order to get to that point, I've spent probably close to $15,000 of my own money to get there. So it really depends on your own financial resource and how much you want to leverage the expertise of other professionals. Like I've also used industrial designers, but the vision is all mine.
Yeah, and so that $15,000, would you say if you were to do this again, you have the knowledge and you can do it for half price, or is it just going to be like that's kind of what it would cost if you're doing something, some kind of like bag that's innovative, some kind of like clothing accessory?
Yeah, well, I think for this product, because the design was actually quite involved, it probably took more time and it's probably quite a bit more expensive than, say, if you wanted to do a piece of clothing that's not too difficult, I'm sure that'll be significantly cheaper. But because this is a product that has never existed before in this form, I actually had to almost force the manufacturer. They were like, "This doesn't make any sense. We're not exactly sure, what the use of this is. Are you sure you don't want to do it a different way?" And I was like, "Just trust me, do it this way." And I had to like email them 3 times to say, "Just do the design as I've got there." A lot of the cost comes from getting the people onto the site, and then getting the consultants to draw up legal agreements. So a lot of that stuff is kind of, if you want to do it properly, it's pretty unavoidable.
Gotcha. So that was one big thing where you thought you were going to quit when you got that first prototype back, and you're just like, "Oh my God, what have I got myself into? Is this even possible?" What other hiccups did you have along the way that were kind of almost deal breakers?
Oh, there's been so many. I sometimes forget. But I think fighting against my own insecurities was probably the biggest one. It was kind of, it almost felt like when I was first starting to learn how to create art again. It was like, I don't know if I can do this. But there's something inside of me that said, just keep going. See where it takes you. Try to bring it to as far as you can, because I don't think you're quite there yet. And I just kept pushing and pushing the manufacturers to make better and better products, because I was feeling very much like, I don't know if I can do this. And I think that was actually the biggest thing I had to fight against, just my self-doubt.
Was it just you forcing yourself to go forward and say like, okay, look, I do my regular concept work during the day, and then I must do 2 hours of working on pushing this bag forward? Or did you meditate, or did you have like a support group? Or what did you do to kind of keep going?
Actually, that was a good point. The project was kind of stalling a little bit early last year, and I hired a business coach, someone that I saw every month. Everything moved as fast as it could. Basically, once I had this person on my side, and I had this business coach for about 3 months. Paid them, a decent amount of money, but the value that I got out of them, that's incalculable, I think.
I imagine there's people out there listening that they have, like these pet art projects where it's like, I always want to do this graphic novel, but it's just going slow. Do you think that would be a good way for people? I've never heard of people doing that, but I think that the business coach, the accountability coach. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I've always been that kind of person. It's almost like part of the reason why I did art so much was I had this other little cousin who would love my art, and I'd try to get better and better. So he'd go, "Oh man, this is such a great picture." And this is how I kind of took things with the Nomad as well. It's like, I want to say that I ticked off all these tasks for this business coach. It's almost like I'm like a lapdog trying to perform tricks. Right. And so I knew that was going to work for me. But I think having that external accountability definitely helped me a big deal. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a business coach. It could be, a life partner. It could be a creative partner. It could be a friend. But the big thing for me that really worked was that it was a no-nonsense relationship with this business coach. They were there to crack the whip. And I even told them up front. I said, if I haven't done my work and I make up an excuse, make sure you pull me up to task. I never missed ticking off all the to-do list whenever I had to see them. Every month I would see them, and until maybe the last week, I'd be like, oh crap, I've got this meeting next week. I've got to get everything done. And the amount that I could get done because I knew I was going to see this person was just immeasurable. It's amazing how much work I got done.
So where can people go and find and buy your Nomad, assuming you're not all sold out, but at least they could get on a mailing list or something and get on the wait list because seriously, this thing is awesome. Once you see it, you're going to want one.
Thanks, Mitch. So I've got two websites. I've got one on Facebook as well as its own site. So its own site is Nomad, NOMAD, dash or hyphen artist.com. Or you can go to the Facebook page, which is facebook.com / Nomad Art Clan. That's all one word. And the Facebook page gets a lot of updates. So there's going to be a lot of professional artists who are going to be using this. I've got quite a few friends with Blizzard Entertainment and DreamWorks Pictures and that sort of thing. And they are pretty ravenous for it as well. So yeah, they're going to be posting out pictures of themselves. And we're actually going to be holding a competition. If we raise enough funds, I'm going to be holding competition for people to actually take pictures of themselves, sketching in unusual places and cool places. And the first prize will be, a Cintiq companion, just because they're such cool devices as well. And it kind of fits with the Nomad brand. So yeah, jump on either of those sites. The Facebook one is where you'll see all the cool stuff. The art community online with digital arts has been really supportive. I reached out to them fairly early, and actually that's another thing that I found was really great is that level of, I think, interaction with your target audience. That's really essential, because when you let them in on the journey, they feel like they're part of the journey. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of great ideas, and some of them have actually gone into the bag, such as the tripod attachment, that came from someone private messaging me and saying, what would be a cool idea? And I thought, that is a great idea.
Awesome. So one more question for you, Darren,
Sure.
And then we're going to wrap this up. If somebody wants to find your personal artwork, where can they go to find more of your examples of your concept and your portfolio and all that?
Yeah, sure. If you go to Facebook and look up Darren Yao, I'm the guy with a ton of friends, like 5,000 friends. Feel free to follow me on my page, because I actually post more to Facebook than I do on my personal site now. So I post all my in-process designs and sometimes I do video sketches on YouTube. Just follow me on Facebook and message me if you want to get in touch, because I love chatting to people as well. So
awesome. Well, there you have it, Darren Yao, coming out with the Nomad. It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see how much money you raise for this thing.
Thanks, Mitch.
So thanks a lot for being on the podcast, Darren, and I'll speak to you soon.
No worries. Thank you, Mitch. Thanks for doing this again. Much appreciated.
Bye.
Okay, see ya.
Demands patience, skill, years of practice.
Ah, you talk like a fool. I would trade a century of practice for an ounce of inspiration.
That's it for this episode. We'd really love your support, so if you could hop on over to iTunes, hit that 5-star review, and then leave us some kind words, we'd really appreciate it. If you're looking for more, you can find us at pencilkings.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/pencilkings. See you soon.
Another amazing Podcast Magic production.